recording started here. Alrighty. Now that we're out time, I'll go ahead and get us started for today. So, hello everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Dynamics 365 Security and Licensing Enforcement. I'm Sebastian Anderson with the Licensing and Database Desk here at Avantiico. Keeping up with evolving requirements, compliance deadlines, and reporting expectations is essential for a stable D365 licensing footprint. As new dimensions to Microsoft's enforcement arise, database capacity is poised to become the next hot-button issue. Joining us to help break down these challenges are Morten Løegstrup, our Director of Customer Engagement, and Tatiana Subotin, our Licensing and Database Technical Lead. They'll be walking us through what Microsoft's rolling enforcement means for FNSCM users, how licensing directly impacts your database storage entitlements and costs, how to use Azure Telemetry Insights to correct license assignments, what's new in user security and governance, how to audit your current license usage and roles, real-world examples of our licensing approach in action, and a limited time offer for attendees, as well as a live Q&A at the end of the show. Morten will be taking over shortly, but before we get started with today's session, I'd love to share some of the other exciting webinars we have coming up. On August 25th, join us for the AI-powered Finance Office. Finance teams are under growing pressure to reduce manual work, make faster decisions, and demonstrate real business value from AI. In this session, Avantiico's expert team will explore how M365 Copilot and related tools can support practical finance workflows, from reconciliations and variance analysis to close reporting and approvals, while addressing important questions around governance, data access, and trust. Next, on September 8th, tune into D365 FNSCM Update 10.0.49. What's changing and what it could break. One version updates help keep D365 FNSCM moving forward, but every release can introduce changes that affect everything from security and integrations to business processes and reporting. This webinar will offer a practical look at Update 1049, highlighting important enhancements, demonstrating key new capabilities, and identifying areas that may require additional preparation. Our support and managed services experts will also share best practices to help your organization test, validate, and deploy the update with confidence. We will have other events and webinars added to the calendar, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled. We've got some exciting things coming in 2026, including more on our ISV solutions. On top of that, please let us know if there are any topics you would especially like covered. All registration links for these events will be available in the chat, on our website, and within this slide deck. One last note, as we go through the show, do not hesitate to ask any questions in the chat. There will be a few interludes for these during the show, as well as an open Q&A at the tail end of the presentation. Any questions that aren't answered live will be addressed in direct email follow-up. And with that, Morten, take it away.
Thank you, Sebastian. Just want to add one more note to the live webinars. Later in October, we haven't confirmed the exact date, but our senior architect, Mike Lokes, the technical architect, he will be doing a session around LCS migration to PPAC, which is going to be a very hot topic impacting all live customers, but also all potential new projects starting. It's going to be a big announcement for Microsoft. They already started the announcement, but it's definitely going to have impact across the globe. But more on that on our event side, and we're also going to send out like a little newsletter so everybody can get the information on hand as soon as we have more information from Microsoft. And I think Sebastian, he will share a couple of links in the chat as you can read up on what we know so far, But we are working on an inside track with Microsoft to understand timeline and so on, because that will have a significant impact, similar to what licenses have had almost a year now. But there's some runway. Everything we've recorded. Ask as many questions you want. Raise your hand. We are here to answer as much as possible. There's a couple of updates on the deadline. Cover that really quickly. Then go in to show you some of the reports in PPAC and talk a little bit about database reduction. Database reduction is going to ramp up in significance now. The licensing enforcement are ramping down, meaning more and more of our customers are now 100% compliant. They have reduced their licenses to match their telemetry data, and they have the licenses they need so that users are not using access and so on. And we see from a partner perspective, we do see an increase in database reduction requests as it's being broadcasted by Microsoft and in the different communities and so on. So that is most likely the next wave. We highly recommend that you stay on top of, due to the very high cost it potentially can cause. Tatiana will jump in and show some of our latest advanced security assessment skills and approaches, and then open for Q&A. But throughout the session, don't hesitate to ask questions. I cannot see them, but Sebastian will catch them up.
Don't be shy, folks.
We talked about some of these things. No changes to that. All case-by-case scenario. Check your earliest D365 renewal date. And we're not talking about sales, customer service, so on. It's all finance and supply chain related. So since last time, actually nothing have changed, but the storage are definitely ramping up in focus and communication from Microsoft. And that's part of the phased approach we talked about earlier, where they start by, let's work on enforcing D365 licenses. And then phase 2 are the storage or the capacity. And the reason why I highlighted the LCS and LCS migration to PPAC is because that is definitely ramping up and part of the enforcement, because right now there's no enforcement, as you all know, on the storage capacity. And I strongly believe as soon as they move it to Power Platform Admin Center, or you move to Power Platform Admin Center, the enforcement can actually happen. So that is their phase 2 or 2.1 kind of mechanism for enforcing the database. And as mentioned earlier, all new projects, if you are not on finance and supply chain, they can actually not be started in LCS today. They are going to be started in a new PPAC admin setup. So that's a big change for net new projects. I know net new projects have a way longer runway until they reach their capacity entitlement, compared to customers that have been live for a certain amount of years, or high volume transaction, or not doing the standard cleanups and so on and so forth. There is some tools, and I can talk to that in high level a little bit later when we jump into PPAC, but Microsoft has some tools available. There's still a long way for it to actually purge enough data for clients with large databases. So I do also expect that you will see more tools and functionalities from Microsoft, so that you as the end client have more control over what data you want to remove or put in blob storage and so on and so forth. A couple of few updates since we spoke a month ago. We do see or get more and more requests related to the warning banners, but that was kind of expected. Customers have been really good at trimming down the licenses so they match the telemetry, and then getting licenses assigned to the users so that they are not seeing the warning banner. So that's really positive. PPAC refresh, I think it says every 4 to 12 hours or something. It's pretty stable. My experience have been refresh every, I would say, 10-hour, pretty consistent on over licensed users, under licensed users, and so on when we had applied changes to that. There's an article here about the LCS to PPAC. I think, Sebastian, if you drop it in the chat, definitely skim through it. As mentioned earlier, there's no concrete or specific timeline from Microsoft, but it is coming. So and impacting all F&O customers that are live. We have seen, so take 10 minutes and just get familiar with the concepts. We have seen a few bugs in PPAC related to GUID IDs. I'll show it. And then you can say, hey, we have the same, and we can help you look into it if need be. But it's very rare. We don't see it that often. But I thought it's relevant to bring it up if there's anyone that are seeing the same awkwardness in your PPAC report. But long story short, we were doing some licensing assignment for a customer, and GUID IDs actually populated up here. And we were like, how do we even identify who the user is? And it turns out a Copilot, a user in the community, said, hey, Copilot said, and then there's actually a little troubleshoot guide to it. But in most cases, it is some accounts that are deleted but not removed from F&O. So if you are seeing this, take a screenshot or ask Copilot, and it can help you remove some of those GUID IDs. In the beginning, it was like, well, what is it? But there's a logic to it. It's not so intuitive, but good old Copilot is helping us. Sebastian, any questions so far?
No questions so far, but like Morten said, the migration of LCS to PPAC link is in the chat if you guys want to take a look.
Quick note, everybody knows that the monthly licensing guide, it came out like a few days ago. There's no changes to Dynamics finance and supply chains licenses. There's a few to but always check it the first week of new month, because we have no clue if Microsoft are changing security roles and permissions and entitlements and so on and so forth. It all populates here. And historically, we have heard customers reaching out, user was activity user, and the month, next month come by, and then all of a sudden they need a supply chain license, for example, all due to changes in the backend for Microsoft. So save this link, or at least go to dynamics.microsoft.com and then pricing and get into the licensing documents. It also gives you a really good insight related to your database entitlement per license you own.
And you can find the link to the latest version of that in the chat as well.
The timeline has not changed. You should be very familiar with this. We have seen that for some customers, it absolutely worked. For other customers, it's not really working, and we have not figured out why it's working for some and not working for others, meaning some customers are seeing the enforcement banners even though their licenses renewal is further out or actually in the past. So there might be some system behind the scenes system inaccuracy, but it's definitely there for the majority of our existing customers. And especially now we are in August, so there's not that many months left of the year before everybody have been rolled into the enforcement mechanism. When you don't have licenses, that is definitely happening. We have not. So many users, just one comment, many users, or not many users, some users, they need both a base license and a attached license. And for those that require multiple licenses, we have not seen you need another license in order to sign in or a warning banner, meaning if they just have one, of the licenses that are required, we have not heard from anyone that the enforcement banner is actually there. So that's probably also something Microsoft is working on. Who knows if it's in the next release to fix the backend on that. Any questions, Sebastian?
No questions as of right now. There does seem to be an issue with Microsoft's link to the August licensing PDF. I'm working on getting the document itself, but so far, no questions.
Okay, otherwise I'll find it in a second.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so if we jump in and please ask as many questions you want. In order to access the admin Power Platform, you need some intra access roles. If you have the Power Platform Admin Center, you can you have like a God access here, and you can see everything you need to see. There's definitely a lot of new features constantly rolling into the workspace, and that's probably also part of the LCS to PPAC migration path. Should I zoom in a little bit? Is it large enough, Sebastian?
I think a little bit of zooming in would probably be good for everyone.
So any questions?
Good. Thank you. Good job.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Everybody is familiar with the workspace when it comes to finance supply chain. We don't want to drill with that. If you have many unlicensed user, get them assigned. You can drill into the more details and see what's actually triggering the license, and then assign them as fast as possible. There's also the other categories. It's fairly easy to see. Okay, 4 to 12 hours. My experience is it refreshes every 10 hours, so don't freak out if nothing is happening during a work day. But this is fairly straightforward. If you have any questions, just reach out. The new workspace that have been changed from a previous workspace is that everything is in the Dataverse. Before, it was actually up here in a summary workspace. But if you let me actually zoom in a little bit more. If you look into the different database, you have your Dataverse, meaning all your Power Platform, your CRM, and so on. It's one category, and then you have your operations. And back in the days, Microsoft called it finance and operations. They haven't changed the name to finance and supply chain yet in here. It might change in the future, but you can see your different entitlements. There is still, from my experience, some data bugs in the system, because it's very difficult to actually drill in and see what's driving the different things. But it's coming, and just be familiarize yourself. Click on the different tabs, see what's happening, see what's actually allocating or what's eating up your sandbox space, your production space. You can drill further into tables and so on and so forth. So there's a good amount of insights here, but get familiarized. One thing I want to point out, which is kind of interesting, there is some capacity extensions you can use up to 3 times. And I think this is also Microsoft's way to say, hey, we know that the tools are not the greatest, and we also know that you need time to clean it up because the tools are not the greatest. And in D365, there is some standard module cleanup functionalities. So if you haven't run them or run them on per basis, we definitely recommend you to do so. If you're not sure if you're doing it or not, schedule a meeting with us, and we can look into your cleaning routines, and think of it as a house. It needs to be cleaned every so often, and Microsoft actually have those tool sets for your different modules in D365. But what is more important is what actually caused, for example, let's say here this sandbox to be 9 GB, because the tables in your database, that is what's really important. there is a concept of Microsoft indexes. Normally, the add up to the majority, and it's very difficult to do anything about that. But you have to look into what's the different tables, the underlying structure, and then you can put together a database reduction strategy. It's of course much easier to delete or kill a sandbox compared to a production. Production ties into all your reporting and so on, so it's much more complex. Our technical team do offer analyses so that we help kind of benchmark the foundation, what is the starting point, and how can we put together a plan over the next maybe 3 to 6 months on reducing not only the sandbox data, but also the production data. And we did touch base on it a couple of months ago, but it is current format is extremely expensive when it comes to database storage if you want to buy it. Sandbox, let's say a terabyte of sandbox data is like $360,000 annually, and $400,000 for production data. So if you are in the terabyte side of things when it comes to database, this is definitely something you have to look into now, because it's not a quick fix, especially if the production data is over your entitlement. It can take many months to get this cleaned up. So start early. That will be my recommendation.
That just about goes for everything we talk about here today. Quicker the better.
Any questions, comments? Otherwise, I'll give the floor to Tatiana.
No questions so far. I
Good.
think we can safely share the floor with our wonderful technical expert.
I have one question, Sebastian.
A question? Sure.
Can I ask? So let's suppose if we have 100 or 200 licenses, 100 license for finance and another 100 for SCM.
Mm-hmm.
Can I create 10 sandbox and 3 productions, just for an example? Because there is no limitation in that from Microsoft side.
If I understand your question, so sandboxes, you can create them, but you're also going to pay for them. Production instances always come. We actually got that question recently for new deployment. Do you want a production instance per warehouse? It's a large third-party logistics, and the warehouses is kind of in rural areas, so they are concerned about performance and so on and so forth. But every single time, the basis, every single time you need a new production instance or production environment, you need 20 minimum licenses. So if you had 100 licenses, I believe you mentioned, you can actually deploy 5 production instances.
And this 20 limitation was in the LCS time. In the PPAC world also, do we have such limitation for 20 licenses?
Yeah, I don't think that will change, because it's kind of Microsoft's bottom line or benchmark to say with 20 licenses, you get, I can't remember, is it 1 or 2 sandboxes, you get a production, you get the disaster recovery, and so on and so forth. All the protection that's included in the base package of licenses. Will it change? I have no clue yet, but it's a good question.
Okay. And another point is, I have seen in the Dataverse, apart from operations, there are few log tables or few files that consume a lot of capacity from Dataverse side.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendation to decrease or for their reduction? Because those were not in the LCS world, but when we deploy from PPAC side, there are a lot of you can say consumption done by those tables or files in the Dataverse.
It's also a good question, but the good news is this is $30 per gigabyte. This is $40 per gigabyte. The file storage and the log, I can't remember which one it is, but one of them are $2, another one are $4 or something like that. So it's much cheaper. But if you have some of them that are significant high, I would probably look into what is driving it. Is it attachment? Is it something you migrated from AX or whatever it is? and then see if there's any alternatives to for example, move it out to blob storage. It's easier to work with compared to your F&O production data.
Okay.
But that's a good topic actually. Let's add that to the LCS to PPAC report migration webinar. That's a good topic. Michael, he would know
Actually,
much more about that.
I raised a ticket with Microsoft also, but they mentioned that it is not consuming anything from our license, and each Dataverse sandbox environment which we have created on PPAC for FNO, they are almost 5 to 10 GB per environment. That file size is consuming in the Dataverse, so that's why I was a little bit worried why it is consuming so much in the Dataverse files.
If you want, Gaurav, I would love to set up, for example, a 30-minute call with one of our technical architects, and we can do like a screen share and look into what's actually driving it. Because Michael, he has seen it many times, and we have also helped other customers getting sense to what's actually driving it, what can you do to it, and so on and so forth. So no concerns there.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Morten and Sebastian.
Very
I'll
welcome.
connect you separately also.
Perfect. We look forward to seeing you in the inbox. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and pass the presentation over to Tatiana. Welcome to the floor.
Thank you, Sebastian. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Our our friends, our participants, our team. So today I will do my best to fit everything, because we have quite a few new things into 30 minutes that we have. If it's too fast, or if you need any additional, like if you have questions, please feel free to ask. If you need any additional information, or something is unclear, something is fast, please reach out to Sebastian. We will schedule a quick call and I will go through details. Maybe something is unclear, so we can look at your particular example. Don't hesitate. We're absolutely open. We will be happy to help you. But today, yes, it's an intense topic. So let me share my screen and I will start.
We see it.
All's looking good.
Okay, great. So if you find something interesting here, if you want to have this presentation, please feel free to reach out to Sebastian. You will get it. Same with the Excel file that I'm going to show later. I know, like, not everybody's catching on the fly. Me either. I'm the same person. So feel free. We will be happy to share all these documents, all these materials with you. First of all, we still have licensing guide in the same place. This is a query link. So when you go, when you follow this link, it will forward you to the right licensing guide, to the current one. So again, if you guys cannot find a licensing guide in September, it's going to be the same link. It will forward you to the right one. I don't want to go to the full slide mode, just because I'm going to switch back and forth. I want to show you, like, it's a real demo. It's a real hands-on. I want to show you everything. So first of all, we have two new features. They're still in preview. They came in different versions. One came in a little bit earlier. It was released in 10.47, who is on 152 quality update. And the second one was released in 10.48. I've been playing with them for probably 10 days right now, and I'll share what I found. And of course, we will apply to our security analysis, because the whole point right now is how to analyze our security and how to make the best out of there and how to actually improve our security. I mean, save on licenses. Or optimize licenses, not save on license, optimize licenses. So these are two new features. One of them is a new object in our license user license report. Another one is a completely new subset of reports and views that Microsoft released. Not everything is working in my environment because I'm not, like, our environment is not on the right version update, platform update to make everything work. So I cannot show you everything today. I will show you everything what's been working so far. And I hope the next release will give us more, and in September we will be able to share the second part of the new feature. Anyway, they are still in preview. And they are applicable to our approach. So our approach, I will just remind you, the main savings so far we see on identifying inactive users and identifying redundant security. And these two additions to our security family, like security governance, these two additions, they help us even more than they used to help. Let's jump into the first one. So the first one is a helper in identifying inactive users. If you remember, I always promoted a user activity user log. An activity user log is still there. It's still available. First of all, yeah, let me switch back and forth. So first of all, two new features. So the two new features are called user log and dormant user report v2 feature and user security governance security object license view. I will place them into our chat for those who is not going to request the presentation from Morten. So these are the two new features. Once you activate them, you get a new object in the license usage summary. Let me remind you how we find it. We go to the security administration, security governance. We have the license usage summary here. You pull this report, you get the new object. This new object is populated with the previously deprecated, very useful view, which is a license pair entry point. We all were waiting for a long time, right? We've been waiting for a year and a half since the previous feature was deprecated, and now we got it back. It's here. This is one of the features, and the second feature is, okay, I don't have it. I'm sorry. Did we close it? Yes, probably I did. Okay. The second feature is it's a new report which is available if you're on 1048. It is available. It's a dormant user security account. You specify here. You specify the days of inactivity. Like you usually go with 90 or 120 days, so 3 months or 4 months. If the user's last login happened 3 or 4 months ago, we consider this user as inactive. You specify the time frame for inactivity, and you get a report. There's lots of information that you can analyze. You see, it's much more than you get in the user activity log. The user activity log is still here. The user activity agent view. It's a view. This one is a report. It's a classic SSRS report. Come on. No, I don't want. I want to be here. No. Oh, yeah. Okay. So That's the first one. Okay. You can you get everything from this report. You see others and user information. I mean, worker information, person information when the user was created, when the user last logged in, and so on. And even if the user has relationship to the customer's vendors, I mean, the worker has a relationship to the customer vendor, then you also see this information. Okay, great. This is the first one. The second one, the second part of the same feature. Second part of the same feature is sitting here once you activate the feature. It's a user log, a new user log, or we should say a modern user log. However, it requires a certain Power Platform update that we are not on yet to see this information here. So it's the same report technically. It's the same report. Pretty much. Government users report is going to be here. It's going to be filterable. So the advantages, disadvantages, you understand. You know, you work with finance and supply chain for a long time. You know that the view is filterable, the view is sortable, while the report is pre-built. You cannot change the columns, you cannot change anything. But anyway, I hope we're going to enjoy this new feature in September. Looking forward and encourage you to activate and watch when this feature is going to start working. Okay, this is the first one. The second one, as I mentioned, I'm here. The second one is a new security object license. So what's cool about this? As I mentioned already, we have a license here menu item, which is exactly what we need to analyze our security. Let's refresh one more time. Okay, so I will show you the happy path, and then I will show you not so happy path, because we have two different rules built. One was built for the May webinar, another one was built for today's webinar, and they brought us to absolutely different experience. The first rule is very simple, and probably who attended our May webinar, I showed you another hands-on exercise, another cool feature, how we deal with the rules when it requires multiple licenses. So this one has 28 rules here, and if we compare to security analysis report, which is our go-to when we analyze our security configuration, right? Like how it's built. If we compare in a few seconds. Yeah, I know. This is something that I cannot speed up.
Yes.
I wish. In the meantime, I need to show you the difference, right? You need to feel the difference. So the first one is a happy path. So what I'm trying to say, 28 objects here, 28 objects here. When we're looking at the user role license, the May role requires 3 licenses, and its security object license view also shows a bunch of licenses. You see it, and when you are trying to find what object is driving a specific license, right? You need to filter for that specific license. Like you need to filter by that specific license. Like, oh no, sorry. You need to filter by supply chain if you want to know exactly those objects that are exclusively supply chain objects. When do we need to do it? when we try to question ourselves whether we're going to keep this role, the same with the same configuration, or we are going to drop a license, who is the candidate to drop, to be dropped? The privilege that is called maintain cost estimates. This is the candidate to be dropped, because this privilege has menu items that are exclusively requiring a supply chain management license. What's about other items, right? What's about other menu items? So the other menu items, like navigation, is not copyrighted today. I'm sorry. I know.
No, fortunately not.
No.
Even when it's new and shiny.
I know. No, I cannot catch it anymore. So how about this menu item? This menu item, as you see, it can be entitled for three licenses, not just supply chain. So it's not a menu item that is behind the supply chain management requirement. This menu item can convert into finance if the majority of the menu items are finance. Is finance. It can convert into commerce if the majority is commerce. It can convert into supply chain if the majority is supply chain. In this case, it's most likely a supply chain, because supply chain priority is the highest priority. I will remind you, we covered these priority topics a few times in the past. So supply chain has the highest priority, then finance, then commerce, then project, then human resource, then operations activity, and then team member. So according to the priority, if it's like, if apples are like equal to apples, it's a supply chain. According to the overall requirement, the engine is looking, it's checking what's the maturity. What's the maturity for the privilege? What's the maturity for the duty? What's the maturity for the role? It's rolling up from the privilege to the duty to the role. So this is a good instrument to validate such things. Now, and I placed it into, so that's about telemetry. Yes, telemetry. Thank you, Sebastian, for reminding me that I need to cover telemetry. So we still have telemetry as our main go-to when we go-to tool when we're trying to assess what's been used, what's not been used, when we're trying to identify what exactly we can drop because it hasn't been used. And also, I need to switch to the company.
It's all good. This is an example of some of the slight pitfalls that you'll see in the real world.
Right. That's right. I need to switch to Avantiico.
Little salt, a little pepper, and a little authenticity goes a long way.
Yeah. Switch to. So telemetry is still our go-to. And if you collected telemetry, if you had a chance to do it, you can run a very short query, and you can pull this data. You can pull this data from the telemetry collection. I have a few application insights resources. I have one which is responsible for finance and supply chain. We covered this topic a few times, how to configure. You can refer to our articles on Avantiico site. You can find this information on the Microsoft site, how to configure telemetry. It's really a 15-minute tool. And 7 minutes out of those 15, you're going to be sitting and waiting until telemetry is populated. So it's really like, it doesn't require too much effort.
And it's important to say too that this has no performance impact as well, right, Tatiana? Turning this
Yeah,
on?
and right, it's no performance, and also like what's going on behind this. Microsoft is collecting telemetry. They've been doing this, right? So you just make it available for yourself, and that's a very short query that you can run once you start collecting telemetry. So as I said, 7 minutes out of those 15, you're going to be sitting and waiting until telemetry starts populating. So it's very easy. Again, it's a reminder that telemetry is still a very nice tool to identify which user is active, which one is inactive, and telemetry also captures some activities that the UI misses, because this tool is based on the UI. This one is a little bit deeper. We still have the same exceptions when the users are not using UI, they're using the thin client. Then we have exceptions. The users are invisible for sometimes even for the telemetry. So, and definitely for the user log. So the users are invisible, and we need to consider those users depending on how they connect, right? If they're using API through their user account, it's one way of connection. Virtual entities is also the same way of connection. When we are using the user ID to create a record through the same client, then the user needs an account and the user needs licenses. When we are using dual write to create a record in finance and supply chain, the user doesn't necessarily need a license. In finance and supply chain, the user can work in another application, probably requiring purpose, like Dataverse license. I mean, it can be a sales license or project operations license or service management license, other licenses rather than finance and supply chain. And this user does not require a finance and supply chain unless the user goes through the UI and like using some finance and supply chain functions in the UI. So that's the first case, a happy path. What I'm trying to say, 28 rows here in the security. Yeah, let's go back. I'm sorry. How many minutes? 12 minutes I have. Okay. So let's go back to the security analysis. So we have 28 rows here. We have same 28 rows here. And in this case, security object licenses, the new feature, matches to security analysis report. And we get a license for each row. We can filter by a license. We can find the items that are specific to a license, like a unique requirement. It's very important. We covered in the previous 2 webinars what we are going to do with them. We either downgrade their access from full access or write access to read access, or we drop these menu items. We to find those ones again on the slides I showed that to find those items we filter by a specific license. However, let me show you another case. It's an unhappy path, and I don't know how to explain. I'll be honest. You can ask me. I don't know. I don't know why. I'm going to figure out. I will probably deliver to our product team. So that's the new role that I have created, and this role is interesting. It's like working on the security analysis for the client. I found a very interesting role that had 4 licenses. I extracted only those pieces of the role that drove the licenses. So I extracted only the privileges that had the privileges that had unique requirements. And if I calculate the number of the roles here, so the license object, the security object licenses shows me 39 roles. If I calculate the number of the roles in the security analysis report, it's 472 roles. This is something what I cannot explain. I've seen it for different roles, and this specific case brought me to the same mismatch. We have less number of roles in the security object licenses than in the security analysis. If you have the same issue, no, Microsoft encourages us to submit tickets, like informative tickets, right? That something doesn't seem to be right, and this is one of the cases. This doesn't seem to be right. How I found it that there is a mismatch. Well, first of all, when I pulled my user requirements for the role, it shows me four licenses required. This is exactly what the same role requires in the customer environment. We do security analysis. We do it quite often. We have lots of experience, right? And my eye catches such things right away, right? There is something wrong. What's wrong? Like I expect the items, the menu items with the 4 licenses, and all of a sudden I see only the team member. I see the team member here. One finance here. Okay, great. So one finance. Everything else is a team member, which is a mismatch. And if something is not working, you see, one finance and everything else is a team member. No supply chain, no project, no commerce. And I don't know why. So I'm going to submit a ticket to Microsoft to inform them that here is a role. It's built based on the Microsoft objects, no custom objects. I can share this all with Microsoft to let them play with it, and it brings a mismatch. What am I going to do in this case? I'm going to use the old approach, but a little bit more. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a little bit like the real way how we do it behind the scenes. So what I can do, I can export this security configuration the same way as we usually do. It's a security analysis report. Let's export it. It's going to be our Excel spreadsheet. Of course, I did it before. I don't want to waste your time. I exported it. Here is my security analysis report. And this is my one row, 465. Probably I missed a few items, but anyway, very close to what we have in finance and supply chain. The next step is I need this information, right? I need to find what's the license. How can I do it? If I go the old-fashioned, like the old way, if I pull security role table, I can find my role. And there is something bothering, right? It's a team member. No, it's not a team member. It requires 4 licenses, but right here, like here, it shows a team member for some reasons. Again, no judgment. Okay, a team member. What I need from here is a rec ID. So this is a record ID because the next view is going to be filtered by the rec ID. I capture this rec ID. Let's capture it together. And the next view, this is the view that we already shared a few times. That's the license role requirements detailed view. Again, You can get the presentation, it's all there. So once I got here, I need to filter by the rack ID. That's the security role by rack ID. You see it's already pre-filtered. I need to filter by entitlement equal to 1. And I am looking, look, I can export all these roles, or I can filter by SKU number. So I'm just filtering by all SKUs. And this is my target. Let's say I exported. I did. Here's my
A quick time check, Tatiana. 3 minutes left.
Yes. 1 minute.
Yep.
Then, yeah, 1 minute. Then we do a few manipulations here. We create context resource, additional column. We create a key column to merge it to the security analysis. Again, you can request the spreadsheet, you will get it. To merge to the security analysis and to restore license requirement. And if you see the same way like we did in the previous 2 webinars, we identify the unique license. So this role really has lots of items that require a unique license, not just those 39. And those items that require a unique license, they really require supply chain. You see that's the supply chain, finance, license, right? And again, what am I going to do? I'm going to, if I decide that I need to drop them, I'm going to drop the privilege, or I'm going to duplicate the privilege and remove this menu item, or I can duplicate the privilege and downgrade the menu item from the write access to the read access, right? I have a few approaches. We have discussed them before. However, the client was absolutely right asking, how are you going to track the users who really need this license, this menu item, like full access to the menu item? And to do this, I have another table. The table that shows me for each menu item, for each entry point, what tables are behind, and the real case. So the client needed a few users to get access to the sales agreements, and the sales agreement is a supply chain management license. It's a very expensive item. Full access to this sales agreement only to the users who really use it. And the other users, they're not going to use it. They create sales orders. They don't create sales agreements. So I can find by the menu item, by the sales agreement item, I can find the tables behind it, and I can track created by, modified by. I can find the users who really need full access to the sales agreement, and I can grant this access. By doing this, we configure our granular security, we create a granular configuration. So it's like one step ahead. This is all I wanted to share with you guys. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. I'll be happy to answer. And my team is going to be happy to answer too.
We absolutely will. As you can see, there's a lot that we covered today, and as is always the case with this stuff, it's just the tip of the iceberg. So if you have any more questions or want to enlist our aid, we are happy to do so. So thank you all for joining us today. Hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, wonderful rest of the week. We look forward to seeing you at our future shows, and hopefully seeing you in our inboxes sometime soon. And real quick, yes, the recording will be available to all those who attended.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.